much, ladies and gentlemen. Well, here we are with another spot of fun for old and young without the slightest sign of vulgarity. I know a girl called Josie, that's short for Josephine. I'm giving all my other girls the shove. I'm doing all I can for her, she's only 17. I sing this to her when I'm making love. Josie, 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 Josephine, I'll be your Napoleon if you will be my queen. When I gaze into your lovely eyes of blue, I want to do the things my mother told me not to do. Doodle-a-doodle-a, Josie, 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 Josephine, let me show you what I mean. I'll take you out one moonlight night down by the Abbey ruin. Place my arms around your waist until I start my wooing. I'll never let my right hand know what my left hand is doing. Because I love you, Josephine. Yes, that is. Oh, Josie, 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 Josephine, I'll be your Napoleon if you will be my queen. When I gaze into your lovely eyes of blue, I want to do the things my mother told me not to. Doodle-a-doodle-a, Josie, 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 Josephine, let me show you what I mean. You say you cannot sleep at night, your bed is no temptation. Say the word and marry me, and I'll be your salvation. I'll take your whole licks up to bed and stop your night starvation. Because, yes, that's it, that's it. Well, that's to give you an idea, ladies and gentlemen, that's to give you an idea. I'm not a singer. I'm here to make you laugh. And if I don't make you laugh, take this record back to the shop and ask for your money back. And I'd like to see you get it. I'd like to see you. Now, this is nice, you like this. There's a fellow won a few quid on the pools, you see. So he thought he'd buy a car. So he went to the shop and he said, the fellow said, I want to buy a car. He said, well, what about that one? He said, how much is that? He said, 500 pence. He said, I'm not giving £500 for a car. So I've only won 75 quid. Not paying that. He said, well, what about a bicycle? He said, no. He said, no, I don't want to buy. He said, I want to get out in the country. I want to go. He said, well, all right, if you want to get out in the country, a pair of skates. He said, skates? I don't want skates. He said, well, look, there's only one thing left. He said, why don't you, like, have a hook and a stick? That'll get you out in the country. So he sold him the hook and the stick, and away he went, right out in the country. And he got out about 20 miles out in the country, and he put his hook on the car park. Yeah? And when he came back, no hook. So he said, the fellow said, where's my hook? He said, I don't know. He said, don't worry about it. It couldn't cost you much. He said, it cost me much. It cost me half a crown. He said, but I'm not worried about the hook. He said, how am I going to get home? But my wife, though I talk a lot about my wife, I do really talk a lot about my wife, but really, she's the best wife in the world I've really met. She weighs 20 stone. 20 stone. What I go through. On our wedding night, she woke me up. And she started shouting, "Here, here." I started shouting, Where? There's an old man of 80, walking along Piccadilly. So he said to a young lady, he said, would you like to go to the pictures? So she said yes. So they went to the pictures and they sat in the back row. He said, look, he said, I don't know whether I'll watch the picture or not, he said, but he said, will you hold my hands? And she said yes. She held his hands and he went off to sleep. And when the picture was over, he woke up. She said, why did you want me to hold your hand? He said, I've got about £200 in my back pocket. I went home the other night and the wife had got 2 black eyes. I said, where did you get the black eyes? She said, the lodger gave them to me. I said, where's the lodger? She said, upstairs. I showed up and I said, Charlie, did you give my wife 2 black eyes? He said, yes. I said, what for? He said, I found out she was unfaithful to us. I said to my father, I said, Dad, I said, I want to get married. He said, all right, son, who do you want to marry? I said, I'd like to marry Miss Green. He said, you can't. I said, why not? He said, she's your half-sister. He said, when I was a lad, I had a bike and I got around a bit. I said, all right, I'll marry Miss White. He said, you can't. She's your half-sister. Forget about it. Well, I was a bit despondent and I walked around. My mum said to me, she said, what's wrong with you? I said, well, I said to Dad I wanted to marry Miss Green. And he said, I couldn't because she was a half-sister. I said, all right, well, I'll marry Miss White. He said, you can't. She's your half-sister. She said, look, you go and marry which one you like. He's not your father anyway. I went to a musical the other week. I took the wife, and we sat in the front row, and 2 comedians came along the stage. I have never heard such filth in my life. And I've heard some. But the gags they came out with, oh dear, I've never heard anything like it. And one comedian told me, I said, how's the wife? He said, I left her in bed smoking. He said, how's yours? I can't even tell her the answer, isn't it funny? Well, I'll have to do something about this. This is all written down wrong. Well, when I got home, I had a few words with the wife. This is straight. I mean this. Well, married people, they do. They argue. There's no doubt about it. You've got to. Otherwise, it wouldn't be married life. She said to me, she said, who was that blonde I saw you with last week? Oh, I said, I don't really know who she is. I said, but she was going to the dogs and I was showing her the way. She said, listen, Miller, she said, no woman's going to upset my married life. We've been married far too long. I said, well, I wouldn't say that. She said, no, but you think it. Well, here's a little monologue as spoken from the mouth. Jack and Jill went up the hill just like 2 cock linnets. Jill came down with half a crown. She wasn't up there too. Isn't it funny? That's a funny thing. Oh, dear. There's one I've put in there. There's another one. Adam and Eve in the garden dwelt. They were so happy and jolly. I wonder how they would have felt if all the leaves had been holly. Now, isn't it? You can't help liking him, can you? I got on a bus the other day and I sat inside and the conductors came in and she said, no smoking inside. I said, I'm not smoking. She said, you've got a cigarette in your mouth. I said, I know, I've got my shoes on, but I'm not walking. She said, do you want to get me into trouble? I said, yes. What time do you finish? Here. And just then we had a head-on crash with another bus. And the bus turned right over. And all the people, they're lying around all on the road, all lying around in the road there. And a policeman came along and I got out of my bus and I went over to him. I said, has the insurance man been? He said, no. I said, can I lie down with the others? Here. So I thought to myself, no more buses for me, no more buses for me. I'll take my own car. So I took my own car out, and I had a head-on crash with another fellow. And he went spark out. And as it happened, I had a little drop of scotch on me, a little quarter miniature scotch on me. Always carry a little drop of scotch, you never know. And I said to him, take a drop of this, you see. So he took a drop, and he gradually came round. I said, you all right now? He said, yes. He said, but what happened? I said, well, we had a head-on crash, that's all. I said, but as long as you're all right, it's all right. A policeman came along, and he said, what's happened here? I said, you can see what's happened. Don't ask me, you can see it. He said, well, whose fault was it? I said, don't ask me. Smell his breath. Now, a chap walked in. He'd had plenty. He was carrying a right load, this fella. Oh, yes, he looked like making 2 trips, this one. So I said, hello, Charlie. I said, hello, Charlie. What are you having? He said, I'll have a whiskey. I said, how's the wife? He said, oh, dear, oh, dear. He said, she's fallen down the stairs and broken her leg. I said, I'm sorry to hear that. He said, I'll be glad when they shout time so I can go home and pick her up. You can't help liking it, can you? Then a posh fellow walked in, and he said to the barmaid, he said, a gin and Angostura. So the barmaid, not being too bright, like, just started the game, you see. So she gave him the gin, and she said, that's 2 and 6. He said, well, what about the Angostura? Oh, she said, you're a stranger here, aren't you? He said, yes. She said, it's down the passage on the right. A soldier had been abroad for about 7 years, and while he was away, his wife had been unfaithful to him. She had a baby. So he was coming home, you see. So she said to the woman next door, she said, now, Charlie's coming home. He doesn't know anything about this baby. I wish you'd take it. And when he goes back, I'll take it back from you. She said, that's all right with me. So sure enough, Charlie came home. And when he came home, after he'd had his lunch, he said, well, now, he said, let's have a look at it, you see. So... She said, what are you talking about? He said, I know all about it. You don't have to kid to me. I know all about it. So the wife suddenly thought, oh, hello, the woman next door, she's told him, you see. So she went next door and she said, did you tell my husband that I'd got a baby? Well, she said, what could I do? He asked me and I couldn't do a thing about it. So I told him. She said, it's all right. She said, you can keep it because it's your old man's. Still, whether you're rich or whether you're poor, it's nice to be rich. And whether you're married or whether you're single, it's nice anyway. I've been married twice, so I know. I know what it's all about. I should do. I married my first wife by candlelight. That only lasted a week. I met my second wife in a beautiful garden. In an old English garden. And there she was, hanging the washing out on a fruit tree. I never knew she had so many pairs. Now, here... And talking about clothes, there's a coloured woman was washing clothes down by the river. And she was sitting down on her haunches, you see. And all of a sudden, an elephant came down to get a drink. And he walked behind her, you see, and he must have touched her with his trunk, you see. So without turning around, she said, I don't know who you is, man. But I'm here every Monday, Wednesdays and Fridays. I don't know whether I've cracked this before or not, I don't know. But I saw a nice woman stand at a bus stop, and I said, you waiting for a bus? I've done that, haven't I? She said, no, I'm waiting for the fare. I said, have you the time? She said, yes. I said, well, I haven't, I can't afford it. She was one of those clever girls, you know the type I mean. Hello, send me, goodbye, send me. And she had a very nice figure, a very nice figure. I said, you've got a very nice figure. She said, what do you want to do, spoil it? Well, matter of fact, she had everything. The trouble was she had it all in one place. That was her trouble. I said, I've got something for you. She said, what you got for me I can do without. She said, besides, I'm not that kind of a girl. I said, what makes you think I'm that kind of a man? She said, it's your eyes. They're the same colour as your gags. She said, will you come up to the flat and coffee and games? I said, what? She said, will you come up to the flat and have coffee and games? I said, I'll come up, but don't bother with the coffee, not straight away. So I went up, she had a marvellous flat, 2 beautiful armchairs, we didn't bother with those. And she had a lovely bearskin in front of the fire. I was glad the fire was on. So was she, I think. Now, well, it was raining outside, and there are only 2 things to do when it's raining, and I don't play cards. So she got the drafts out, and we started to play drafts, and I was doing all right until she got me in a corner and crowned me. I said, how long is this game going to take? She said, I don't know, Maxie, how long can you stay? I said, well, I can't stay long, a couple of days at the most. So I kissed her goodnight the following morning. And at the door she said, aren't you shy? You're a shy boy, aren't you? She said, don't you believe in free love? I said, no, I don't. I don't think she did. I was a pound short when I got home. My own fault entirely. My father warned me many years ago. He said, son, you're going out into the world. Among the birds and flowers, count your change. Now, there's a funny thing, I can't give change. I don't know the value of money. I went to a barmaid. I said to a barmaid, if I gave you £5 less 10%, what would you take off? She said, you'd be surprised. In this weather! I remember I was playing a small town, a mining town, and I couldn't find digs. And I went round looking for rooms. And I knocked on the door, and a beautiful woman came to the door, and she said, yes. I said, wait a minute, I haven't asked you yet. She said, do you want food? I said, why, is there anything else? I said, could you put me up for the night? She said, I'm full up. I said, but surely you could squeeze me in a back room, couldn't you? She said, I could, but I haven't got time now. You know, busy. So I said, well, how much do you charge? She said, 30 shillings, all in, and I don't want any children. I said, I said, I'm not married. I said, I'm not married. I've always been round-shouldered. She said, well, the best I can do for you, she said, you can sleep with baby if you like. It'll cost you £1. I said, that's all right. No, I said, I'm not having that. I can walk about and get wet through. She said, well, will you sleep in the front room on the couch? I said, yes, I'll do that. So I went to sleep in the front room on the couch, and in the early hours of the morning, a beautiful blonde walked in with a cup of tea. I said, who are you? She said, I'm baby. She said, who are you? I said, I'm the mug who slept on the couch. You can't help lightning, can you? I said to a girlfriend, it's funny, I said to a girlfriend, this is very funny. I said, every time I call round to your house, I said, your husband's out. I said, where does he go? She said, he goes round to your house. And then they say, you can't mix business with pleasure. I know a few girls are doing all right in Brighton anyway. Went home the other night, the wife was crying. I said, what are you crying for? She said, I'm homesick. I said, this is your home. She said, oh no, I'm sick of it. Now, I'll sing for you now, the Twin Sisters. You'll like this. I've fallen in love with twin sisters, two girls I would like you to meet. One is called Annie, the other's called Fanny. They both come to live down my street. I think I'd better describe them, just in case you're in doubt. Annie's the one with the teeth in, Fanny's the one with them out. Not bad, is it? Not bad, is it? You can't help liking him. Annie would scream out in terror if a boy should stop her late at night. Fanny, she too would let out one or two, but hers would be screams of delight. One night, a couple of sailors followed them home on the street. Annie, she prayed for her mother. Fanny, she prayed for the fleet. Not bad, is it? Annie, she wears a blue costume. It brings out her eyes, you can tell. Fanny wears slacks that bring out all the facts and bring out the police force as well. One of these girls I should marry. To separate twins isn't fair. So when I tie the knot with what little I've got, I'll see they both get a fair share. That's it. It was a terrible night in the desert. They were putting the camels to bed. And one of them sat with his legs crossed, scratching the back of his head. The perfume which came from the camels filled everyone with delight. You can always find them by their censer, no matter how dark the night. They eat lots of sand in the desert. It doesn't hurt them a bit. Do you know why they eat sand in the desert? No. Because the girls like the men full of grit. On the banks of the beautiful Nile, the women on Sundays go washing their undies, and the cold winds in March blow round their marble arch on the banks of the beautiful Nile. Oh, it's wonderful there. The dancing girls wear is a smile. They start shimmy shaking with every limb quaking, but one dusty queen busted her tambourine on the banks of the beautiful Nile. On the banks of the beautiful Nile, the natives like swimming with other men's women. The girls are all grand, they all swim with one hand on the banks of the beautiful Nile. Oh, it's wonderful there. They sit on the banks for a while. One girl lay in rapture, a crocodile snapped her. The girl in her grief showed me marks of his teeth on the banks of the beautiful Nile. Now, here's a clever one. Now, here's a clever one. Two boys, you know the type of boys I mean? Two of those considerate boys, you see. And they're sitting in their flat, and one said, I said, John, he said, what would you like to do? So the other man said, well, he said, I don't rightly know, see? So he said, I'll tell you what, if you want to, see, he said, we'll go to the pictures. He said, no, I don't want to go to the pictures, it'll be too crowded. He said, well, I'll tell you what then, if you want to, see, we'll stay in and we'll play games. And the other one said, well, what would you like to play? He said, well, I said, what? He said, if you want. He said, we'll play hide and seek. He said, well, how do you play it? He said, well, look, he said, I'll hide, see, and if you find me, you can kiss me. And if you don't find me, I'll be in the wardrobe. I've just come clean from Paris. And what's a bit of doing to come clean from Paris? A deaf and dumb man got married, and his wife made him wear boxing gloves in bed. That was to stop him talking in his sleep. A young man playing golf with a young lady, and he said, my name's Peter, but I'm not a saint. She said, my name's Mary, but I'm not a very... not a very good player. A girl said to me, she said, Maxie, she said, why do men get up in the early hours of the morning? I said, what do you mean, in the middle of the night? She said, yes. I said, well, 10% get up to go to the kitchen to get something to eat. And 20% get up to, well, they get up because they want to go out. And I said, the other 7% get up to go home. That's all I can think of. I said to my father, I said, Dad, I want to go to Paris. He said, you're not going to Paris. I said, look, I want to go to Paris. I want to see the Folie Bergères. He said, you're not going. He said, you might see something there that you shouldn't see. And he was right. I went. I saw him there. I bought a car the other day, a used car. I bought a used car. And I don't know what it was used for. So I said to the farmer, I said, what is it? He said, it's a coop. I said, that's what they keep birds in. He said, that's right. So he went to the back of the car and he opened it and he brought out a chicken. He said, will you stay for lunch? I said, yes, I'll stay. So he took all the feathers off the chicken and he put it in the oven and closed the door. He said, when we come back, you'll have that. So he came back and he opened the door. And when he opened the door, the chicken said, listen, he said, now, I had to put my feathers back or light the gas. It's bloody cold in here. There's a fellow working at the docks, and he said to the governor, he said, could I have the afternoon off? He said, not Saturday afternoon. He said, you get double pay. He said, I'm not concerned about double pay. He said, I want to go home. He said, the wife's expecting a happy event. Oh, he said, in that case, you better go then. So he went home. He came back on Monday and the governor said, all right. He said, yes, it turned out all right. He said, what is it, a boy or a girl? He said, we won't know till about 8 months' time. This is really funny, this is really true. What I'm going to tell you now is really true. And I mean that. I met a girl and I said to her, I said, Matter of fact, this was at a bus stop too. This is a bus stop. She said, will you marry me? She said, I'm different to other girls. I said, well, if you're too different, I'll have to consider it. I said, would you like to go for a drive? She said, no, thanks, I'm too tired, I'd sooner walk. Well, anyway, she got into the car, and I noticed she was wearing a big bangle on her wrist, a big bangle on her wrist. And I said to her, what's that? I said. She said, it's a suppressor. I said, I've got one of those on the car, it stops interference. She said, that's why I'm wearing it. Well, we hadn't gone far in the car, and all of a sudden the car stopped. I said, the car's broken down. She said, well, what happens now? I shouldn't be a bit surprised. I said, I'll tell you what, we're going to have a drink. We're going to have a drink. So we went to the bar. I said, what will you have? She said, well, I don't think I'll have a whiskey. I said, well, don't have it if you don't want it. I wouldn't force her, you know what I mean. She said, I don't think I'll have a port. I said, can I make a suggestion? She said, yes. Well, let's have the drink first. So we had the drink, and when we came out, the car had gone. And there were 2 bicycles outside the hotel. So we took the 2 bicycles and away we went. We hadn't gone far, we had 4 punctures. Not 2, 4. There was a fork in the road. So I said, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll lie down behind this hedge and wait till the morning. She said, why wait till the morning? I said, well, because I've got to get home, because my wife's a very suspicious woman. If I go home with a hair on my coat, I've got to take her around the stable and show her the horse. I said, I was out all one night looking for a ginger horse. You can't find them. Here's one you may have heard on your mother's knee or some other low joint. My wife woke me up and she, in the early hours of the morning, she said, Max, the baby's crying. I said, well, get up. I said, it's half yours. She said, my half's not crying. A little monologue. They took the vanity from the peacock, the cunning from the fox, the brains from a jackass, the jawbone from an ox, the venom from the viper, the stinger from the bee, put them all in my old woman and bunged her onto me. Two dogs talking, and one said to the other, have you done your pools? The other one said, no, I just missed the post. Oh dear, yeah. Now, years ago in the north of England, years ago, they used to have monkeys on the counter to draw the people in. So there's a monkey on the counter, and a fellow walked in, he said, I'll have a large whiskey, and the governor turned round to get the large whiskey. So he hit the monkey and knocked him down. So the governor said, why did you do that? He said, well, I put a £1 note on the counter. He said, and he picked up and chewed it up. He said, well, you don't have to hit him. He said, he's a very nice monkey. He said, don't do it again. He said, there's your whiskey and there's your change. So he walked out, he went into another pub. There's another monkey on the counter. So he said, the governor gives a large whiskey. The governor turned round to get the whiskey, hit the monkey and knocked him down. So the governor said, why did you do that? He said, I put a £1 note down, he said. He picked up and chewed it up. He said, he picked it up. He said, he'd been stuffed 20 years. I was in Spain last year. I went over to see a bullfight in Spain, the bullfight. And I was there, and I saw a girl there, one of the girls there. She had a knife in her stocking, like the top of her stocking, in the garter. So I said, what's that for then? What's that knife for? She said, that's to defend my honour. I said, if you were in Brighton, you'd want a set of carvers. A fellow walked into a tailor's and the woman said, what do you want? Come this way. So he said, I want to be measured for a suit. So she took him in the back room. This is funny, you like this. So she measured him up, 34 chest, 32 waist, arms 33, 34. She measured the trousers, outside 33, inside 32. She said, I'm not sure about that inside, I'd like to do that again. So she measured him inside again, 32. She said, is there anything else you want? He said, I'd like a cap. He said, but really, he said, I'd like to be measured for another pair of trousers. Now, I think I've cracked this, I don't know. Two travellers? No, I don't think I have. Two travellers. They're staying at the farmhouse, and they're going along in this car. It's an open car, got the hood down, and they're going along. And all of a sudden the car stops, so they walk towards the farmhouse. And when they got there, said to the farmer, can you put us up for the night? And the farmer said, well, we're very religious in this house. He said, but I'll see what we can do. He said, I'll have a chat with the wife. So he said, we've got a large double bed upstairs. So the fellow said, well, that's no good to us. That's no good to us because we're not married. Oh, he said, in that case, I've got to think again. Because we're very religious in this house, see? So he said, look, he said, I've got an idea. He said, I'll put a pillow down the centre of the bed. She can sleep one side, you can sleep the other. Is that all right with you? The fellow said, it's all right with me because I'm religious as well. So they went to bed, and they got up in the morning, paid their bill, and away they went in the open car. And all of a sudden, a gust of wind came along and blew her hat over into a hedge. So he stopped the car and he got out. And she said, where are you going? He said, I'm going to jump over that hedge to get your hat. She said, jump over that hedge? You couldn't jump over two bloody pillars last night. Once upon a time, 1,000 years ago, there were 4 good girls. 1,000 years ago. Once upon a time. And in those days, they would come to London. And they'd stop at the YWCA. Now they come to London and stop at nothing. A Yorkshireman came to London, he couldn't get any Yorkshire pudding. He went home and battered himself to death. The day in the life of a film star. The day in the life of a film star. She gets up at 6 o'clock in the morning, takes a bath, goes for a 5-mile walk, comes back and takes another bath, goes off to the studio, does 2 hours work, takes another bath, comes back in the evening, has a cup of coffee and take another bath. And you must agree with me, ladies and gentlemen, that is about the cleanest joke I've ever cracked. There was a young lady bathing at Blackpool. I was there and she was bathing and she was lying down, face down, and a woman came along and she said, I think it's disgusting. What do you think? I said, I think it's all right if you take a broad view of it. She said, that's the kind of answer I expected from you, Miller. I said, look here, my good woman. She said, I'm not a good woman. I said, well, you know your own business best. A few weeks, I saw her later, standing in Hyde Park on a soapbox. She was addressing a crowd there, and they're all round there, and she said, last night I was in the arms of the devil. Tonight I'm in the arms of an angel. And a drunken sailor said, well, how are you fixed for tomorrow night? He was so drunk he didn't know his way back to the ship. So he thought, well, I've got to get fixed somewhere. So he went around and he knocked on a door in a very, very low locality where they played tennis with hammers. And a navvy came to the door and he said, what do you want? And the sailor said, I'm staying here. He said, well, stay there and shut the bloody door. There were three stalks. Mother stalk, father stalk, and baby stalk. I think I've cracked this, haven't I? No, right. There were three stalks. Mother stalk, father stalk, and baby stalk. Now, mother stalk flew over to Manchester and she delivered twins. Now, father stalk, he flew over to Birmingham and he delivered triplets. Now, the baby stalk flew over to Brighton and put the wind up two barmaids. There's a funny thing. Now, this is a funny thing. Funny thing happened. I went skating the other week with a young lady on ice. And we've been going around for quite a while, and she kept falling down. I said, you keep falling down. I said, have you hurt yourself? She said, no. She said, I'm sorry. She said, I'm spoiling your fun. I said, you're not spoiling my fun. Get a keep on ice. 8 women in a boat. 8 women in a boat. One was expecting a happy event. The other 7 wanted to help her, and they couldn't. They were all in the same boat. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to finish this programme with a little song entitled Hiking. Now, before I sing this song, there's a young lady, she wanted to go hiking, she couldn't find a male partner. So she told her mother, Mother said, I'll tell you what to do, put an advert in the paper and you get all the male partners you want. But don't have your letters addressed here because I'm washing this week. Have your letters addressed in a paper shop in the corner and go and get them for yourself. She said, all right, Mother, what kind of an advert should I put in? And her mother told her because her mother was an old icress as well. Her mother said, put in a young, strong girl wants a partner for hiking. And she got 150 letters from these adverts. 150. She was in the front room reading these letters when her mother came in and she was laughing. She said, what are you laughing for? She said, you'd laugh if you knew. I've got one here from Father. A boy and a girl went out hiking. Of course they were both wearing shorts. They stopped at the old Pig and Whistle, and there had a couple of ports. When they got back the same evening, the neighbours all started to quiz. He came home late wearing her shorts. She came home late wearing... Down on a farm in the country, a funny thing happened one day. The hen and the rooster were talking. Here's what they both had to say. Said the rooster, I can't understand it. You used to lay eggs by the score. Said the hen, well, oh cock, I can't help it. You don't come around anymore. An old man of 90 got married. The bride was so young and so bold. In his car they both went honeymooning. She married the old man for gold. A year later he was a daddy. At 90 he still had the knack. He took one look at the baby and then gave the chauffeur the sack. Here's the last one, and your last chance to applaud. With Mary I went from the dairy to milk cows on a farm one day. I said I would just like to help you if you will show me the way. I started on one they called Rosie. As I sat on the stool near the wall, I shouted out, this old cow knows me. She won't let me touch her at all. That's